I posted a status this morning that basically said, individuals who are chronically judgmental and chronically critiquing others are just wanting the attention and the validation that isn't being given to them by the people who really matter in their life. And I know I've gotten a lot of response from that, but I wanted to just give you guys the back story of why I even posted that. A lot of people are assuming it's because of all the criticisms that Rihanna is receiving from the Super Bowl commercial. And that's part of it, but that's not all of it, because I was having this conversation even prior to the Super Bowl broadcast yesterday with friends and colleagues who, I like to kind of ponder things with. I was having this conversation because in the line of work I do and the clientele I see, it's so common for me to just have clients in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond who are coming to me still reeling from being raised in an environment, raised by a mother or father or family, or community or culture that's highly critical, that's highly judgmental, and how they're still reeling from the effects of that. And what's even more interesting is oftentimes people who grew up in that situation, grew up without a supportive, stable, encouraging, key, figure in their life, be it a parent or grandparent or whatever. Often people who grew up with all that criticism and critique become very critical and cynical themselves, which, sounds absurd, but we can only do what we were taught to do, what we observed, what we learned, what we over just repetition became our norm. And so we have a saying in psychology that any attention at all is better than no attention at all. And when I posted that this morning, talking about how, I tend to find, this is a professional opinion, but also a personal opinion, and I'll get to why it's a personal reflection or opinion or observation, I'll say as well. But I oftentimes find that those individuals who are most judgmental, who are most critical, are not being validated, are not being supported, are not being uplifted by the people who are present and matter in their lives. And I can go back to even a personal experience now. My default setting is one of wanting others to feel good. I mean, that's just who I am. I don't get off on making people feel bad. I don't get off. And that doesn't mean I don't have my opinion. Let me just say that. That doesn't mean that I can't critique things, because you can. I think we all have a right to critique. I think we all have a right to have our opinion. That's why I put the word chronically in my status today, because there are some people who that's just their default setting, that it's all about criticism. It's all about critique. I see the statuses. And my first thought is, oh my God, this person is not being nurtured the way that they desire to be nurtured. And it's just being projected on everyone else out there. Now, I think we've all been in that position at one time or another. I know personally, and I was sharing this with Reggie this morning. I know I can remember a time, like I said, my default setting was one of happiness. I want people to feel good. I want you to feel good. I want to validate you. I want to encourage you. That's my whole brand, right? But I can remember times in my life where I found myself on the other side. I found myself being very judgmental of others. I found myself very cynical and critiquing. And, in my retreat coming up in Costa Rica in a few weeks, we got a whole segment on judgment and how that holds you back. Being judgmental and being critical chronically holds you back. But I found myself in that position before. And I can remember when I realized, I checked myself. I remember having words come out of my mouth that did not even sound like me. And I remember immediately after I had to go within and do a self-check. I'm like, where did that come from? And where it came from is at that time, I wasn't happy with my life situation. I was either in a relationship that wasn't fulfilling to me, or I was in a job or situation or life in general wasn't fulfilling to me. And I found myself being able to just really go down that frequency of being able to critique and criticize. It was my projection. It was my own projection of my own unhappiness. And what I had to check myself is that, I don't have a right to damper somebody else's sense of happiness or enjoyment because I'm not experiencing that in my life. My job at that point, and that was when my self-check came in, was to get the courage to do what I needed to do to get out of whatever situation was not fulfilling to me, so I wouldn't find myself going down that road of just being one of those people, right? We all, and I want you guys to hear this, we all want to validate whatever our dominant emotional state is. We all want to validate that. And what I mean by that is that if your emotional state is one of happiness and, that abundance exists for all of us, right? If that's your emotional state, you want to go out and you want to preach that to other people because you want to encourage other people that you can feel this too, right? And I always say, happiness is my default setting. So when I'm on here talking about the possibilities of life and how we should all be able to live a fulfilled life and embrace all the goodness in life, that's because that's how I live. But if you're someone and you live in the other realm, you believe life is unfair, it'll never get any better, this is as good as it gets, you want to convince everyone of that as well. And you don't want anyone coming in to tell you that that's not the truth. Just like I don't want anyone coming in telling me that it's not true that life is good. I mean, look at this beautiful view that I'm looking at. Look at this sun shining on me. How can life not be good? So someone comes and tell me, girl, you should be miserable right now because look at everything going on in the world. I don't want to buy into that. I don't want that even fed into my spirit. But we got to understand the cynics, the critics, the judgmental people feel exactly the same. If they're looking out, and I'm not even talking about a view, I'm just talking about their own perspective. If they're looking out at us a world that is one of danger, fear, distrust, all of that beauty, all that stuff, if they're looking out at a world that's their reality, they want to convince you that should be your reality too. Now, our job is to avoid, as I put in my status, falling down that rabbit hole because it's bottomless. There's no bottom to it because no one could ever feel that up. No one, you're not even going to convince these people that isn't even the reality out there because there is as many realities out here as there are people. And we all get a choice to choose what reality we want to navigate this life in. But understand, your choice is going to produce the outcome. So whatever your outcome in life is a measure of what you decide your dominant state is going to be in. Is it going to be in one of love and encouragement and uplifting, or is it going to be a one of critique and judgment and criticism? You really have to be honest and ask yourself that. As I said in psychology, we have a saying that any attention is better than no attention at all. So if someone does not feel like even a kid, if a kid feels like they're not getting attention, the attention they want, they start kicking the seat behind them or they start making noise, their behavior problems, they start having behavior issues because that's going to get them some attention. May not be the attention they want, but any attention is better than no attention at all. So all these hundreds and thousands and millions of people who now have a platform on social media, who now have a platform where they can get attention and they want to be able to share just how effed up life is, they're able to do that. And guess what? There's so many people who are going to chime in and agree with them because that's their reality too. You don't have to. You don't have to. We don't. Whatever our reality is going to produce our outcome in life. And we've got to decide what our outcome needs to be. So this is where our self-check comes in. How much judgment are you finding yourself doing? Again, I'm not immune to this. Like I said, I found myself at many times in my life where I was one of judgment and cynicism and critique and things of that sort. But I know what was going on in my life. At that time, I wasn't happy. And instead of taking responsibility myself to do what I needed to do to shift realities and put myself in a different reality so I can produce different outcome, it was easier for me to project that out until I did self-check. And I have to continue. We all have to continue to self-check. And part of that is protecting yourself from situations, people, environments that are opposite of what your reality is. You do not have to feed into it. You do not have to comment. You do not have to respond. People oftentimes ask me, you're not going to respond to what that person put down? No, I will not. Because I'm not going to even feed into it. I'm not even going, any attention is better than no attention at all. So you're not even going to get any of that attention from me because I choose a reality that's producing the outcome that I'm experiencing right now, and I'm good with it. So I love to know your thoughts. Share this video if you think somebody can share it. Plenty of people on social media can share it. Look, we went from last week, people all in a blaze criticizing Beyonce for calling her husband beautiful. Like, that was an insult on their existence that she did that, to this week criticizing a 12, 13-minute Super Bowl performance by a woman, who was pregnant. And all the technical people, camera people I know, today are talking about just what a masterpiece that production was, but we want to hone in on a woman on a platform, pregnant and doing all that did not give you what you wanted for those 12 minutes of your life yesterday. So maybe time for a self-check. Tell me what you think. Thanks everyone for joining. Share it if you think somebody could use it. As always, I appreciate you guys, and live your life in full bloom. And as the title of my retreat is, let's start transcending this trauma. All of this response, all of this critique, judgment, cynicism is a trauma response. It's a trauma response from just our upbringing, our DNA, all the stuff that we didn't get in those formative years that we should have gotten. But it's time to start healing ourselves from that so we can stop letting these little, I know people say this is just a Super Bowl. What's the big deal? But all these little things have a cumulative effect. They have a cumulative effect of keeping us in the situation, in the position that we're in now. So that's it. Have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye.